What up, my dude skis? Wow, RF, congratulations. We're 3 rounds into 2020, and we're finally back to a 2019 track. Oh, man. But no, for real. Is this track better than the first 2 rounds of 2020? Yes. Yes, it is. Okay, just one big humongous aspect is they finally have like normal MX simulator scaling back to this track. Like I was saying in those past 2 videos of their first 2 tracks, those tracks to me felt like arena cross scaling or some other kind of shit. They were way too narrow. Everything was way too cramped down and small. And, finally this seems more like what I think of as a normal MX simulator scaling track, like when you consider what RF has always done as far as width of the track and just kind of standard the way the whole entire track scaling feels. So they finally seem to be getting that back a little bit here, so I was really happy about that. But yeah, some of you guys that think I'm just this RF hater, they can never please me. Oh my God, it doesn't matter what RF does, I'm just going to hate on it. No, I'm telling you, they made an improvement. It's just like, dog, if they improve on it, then I'll come out here and say it. If they make literally the worst RF track in the history for its time, 2020 Anaheim 1, I'll come out here and say that too. That's what that track was. Seriously, that will go down in history. The RF 2020 Anaheim 1 track will go down in history as the worst RF track for its time. I promise you it will, dog. I promise you it will. That was worse than bad. Like, at least this track right here has a little bit of substance to it. I'm not going to say it has a lot, but it has a little bit. Whereas, to me, it felt like the first 2 rounds didn't even have any substance to them whatsoever. Like, there was nothing to them. There was no skill gap, no rhythms. There was just nothing. So, this track does seem to have a little bit more of like just like an overall skill gap sense to it, with the rhythms just feel a little bit bigger, a little bit more skill gappy, not so cramped down arena cross scaling. The whoops are a little bit bigger. They still kind of have a little bit of that weird, like a road rolled off whoop vibe to them, but I will say they are a little bit more skill gap. But I know on this track you get a crap load of speed on them, so that may be kind of creating a little bit of false skill gap in my mind. You know what I'm saying? If you understand what I'm saying there, because you're able to hit them so fast, but it does definitely create a skill gap in the first 2 whoop sections. If you're really hitting them bitches tapped out 5th gear, you're going to have to be, on the ball, dog, or you're going to flip over 360 no-scope backflip pretty much instantly. So, but yeah, I'm not going to say these whoops are perfect, but to me, they are better than the first 2 rounds of whoops. So, but the corners are still as much trash as they have been in the first 2 rounds. That aspect has not been improved whatsoever. They still have these completely rolled down. It doesn't even feel like you're hitting corners. So that's still a really big issue. And the fact that the track's a little bit wider and the corners, they almost, I don't know, the corners just so flat, so smooth. It kind of gives you this feeling like you're just flat tracking, drifting, all around every single corner. And they've almost got it to the point to where you feel like going on the inside everywhere is faster, because you're just wasting time going on the outside because there's not a big enough berm there to really bank off of it and carry enough speed. It almost just feels like you'd be better off going up the inside everywhere. So it kind of gets that effect a little bit, but this to me just basically feels like a 2019 track. I mean, through and through, that's what it is. And I'm not saying it's like it doesn't even feel like a good 2019 track to me. This feels just more like a mediocre to one of the worst, one of the, more bad 2019 RF tracks to me. So check out this new helmet, dog. Let me get in on that. Oh, man. So this is technically the 2021 team helmet here. Just came out with that for the team. Dog. Got me some star pattern vibe going on here. Looking pretty sick. So, but yeah. So, I have to give them... It's hard for me to even give them any credit or applaud them, because it's like, wow, we're 3 rounds in and you're just now back to where we were in 2019? It's just like, really? Like, I'm happy they did it, obviously, but it's just like, bro, come on. Like, I shouldn't even have to have said this. I shouldn't even have to have came in here and did all this and reviewing the first 2 tracks, and then finally it's like, oh, wow, yeah, we need to do all this stuff. Like, what? They're just all over the place. It's like they don't know what they're doing at all. Like, literally, that's what it feels like. They don't know what they're doing at all with the track making. People will try to defend RF till it burns into the absolute ground. I'm telling you. There is just certain people out there, it does not matter what RF does. They will think it's a good decision. They will defend it. They will find a way to try to defend it. But it cracks me up because here we are, round 3. Now we're like, boom! Right back to 2019 scaling, like they've totally reverted their entire small, cramped down, 1-to-1 scaling shit they were doing in the first 2 rounds. So that was obviously a terrible decision, just like I said in the first 2 reviews of their 2020 tracks. So they've completely reverted on that. Now they finally have actual jumps and rhythms on the track now. Not saying they're perfect, but now there is at least some kind of rhythm when there really was none in the first 2 rounds. So, I mean, as you can see, obviously they were completely going in the wrong direction rhythm-wise in the first 2 rounds, and they even understand that. That's why they've changed all this for round 3. So now all they need to do is make their corners actual corners, make them actual berms and not just completely smoothed out flat sections, put a little pre-made on it, and cut that road shit out, or just make it really, really low. And then, wow, boom, here we go, RF. This is what I've been saying this whole time. You're so close to bringing all this back that it's like, it's not even funny. You just can't lose sight of it now. You know what I'm saying? Let me put it to you this way. Like, if this would have been the 2020 Anaheim 1 track right here, but let's just say it had a little bit of pre-made on it and like the berms were just a little bit more real berms and not so smoothed off and rolled off, then I would have raced this season. Straight up, I'd have raced. If they would have just done that much, I would have raced. If they'd had this track, a little bit of pre-made and not so smoothed off corners, I would have raced in 2020. That's all it would have took, RF. Like, that's what I'm getting at, how those first 2 rounds, it was like even more than the standard, shitty RF track. It was even worse than the unacceptable. Like, that's what I'm saying, I'm not even saying this track right here is like super amazing or anything, because it's far from that, but it's better than whatever the hell we had before in the first 2 rounds. Like, if I gave Anaheim 1 a 2 or 3 and then St. Louis like a 3 or 4, this is like a 4 or a 5. You know what I'm saying? I would really only give this like maybe 1, maybe 2 points more than those. But I still think there's a lot of improvement they can make to this shit. It's just sad to see that we've just basically burnt 2 of the first rounds and just killed 2 of the first pro racing experiences of this year for no good reason at all. It's just like, what in the hell? But anyways, yeah, I mean, I want to try to like congratulate you more and, try to thank you for doing this, but it's just like, bro, this should have already at least been the way the base version of Anaheim 1 was, scaling wise and everything. Like, at least should have been like that. But it wasn't. I don't know. But yeah, at least there is a little bit of skill gap on this track right here, when I feel like there was absolutely none on the first 2 rounds. So thank God there is actually something. You feel like there's some kind of skill to the track. This whoop section right here, the fact that it's so long and that you go into a main triple after it, it really kind of adds that, you got to kind of have that balance of like, how much are you really going to risk it through this whoop section, because you can go about as fast as you want to go, bro. I mean, I can get that puppy 5th gear and not bogging on that shit, and you can be hauling some ass through there. And I heard they actually cut down the erode quite a bit in this race. I didn't actually watch it. That's just what I heard. So I don't know. We'll see what they can do. If they can really turn this shit around like it needs to be, then we'll see what goes down. Hell, I may start racing again. I don't know. It's going to take a little more than this, though. If they keep going down the right roads, make their corners better, keep with this kind of scaling, make the rhythms, skill gapped like this, but give us maybe one more opportunity to quad a little better somewhere or something. Make the whoops just a little bit more. Not that they need to be much bigger than this, but not so rolled like this. Maybe just a little more peak to the whoops. Bigger, not so smoothed out berms in the corners. Little bit of pre-made somewhere. If they can start going more down that road, it's going to start popping off again. But until then, I'm gonna give it at least 3, 4, 5 more rounds, and we'll see where they're at. Yeah, like I said before, that's the main reason I'm not even racing this year, is because it's one of those things that you feel like you're in some sort of beta test. So it's going to take a whole series, I feel like, before they get it even remotely worth, for me, even remotely worth racing in without just completely boring me out of my mind riding on the track. I feel like it's going to take them quite a bit longer, but I mean, yeah, whoops are more solid, jumps are more solid. I do think they're kind of going. I don't know if this is Bradley Clay making the tracks it's causing this. I noticed this on some of his little off-season tracks. I do think that is the RF track maker now, but he's got these very bizarre triangled transitions, which is okay every once in a while on a little custom track, but it can start getting kind of annoying when you get the transitions just have a bizarre, it almost feels like even if you jump something perfectly on this track, you're still landing on flat. You know what I mean? It's like the transition is not got enough of a smoothed effect to it or a rolled effect to it to where it just kind of has a weird, weird feeling to it. Kind of a bizarre, you don't really feel like you can flow over the jumps. It's like no matter how perfectly you hit them, you're still kind of not really jumping perfectly down the backside of the jump. You see what I'm saying? Because the way the transitions are triangled, and it's like the main triple landings are not quite as big and rolled as I thought, so kind of makes it, you got a very narrow landing window for the main triples, which makes them feel a little bit weird, but that's a little more nitpicky stuff. I just think that's kind of something that just makes the track feel a little more bizarre than it needs to feel as far as the jump rhythms go. You don't really want the transitions to be so triangled out. I mean, it's okay every once in a while on some rounds, I guess, but you want them to have a little more of a rolled effect. I'm not saying make the jump faces more rolled. I'm saying make the transitions a little more rolled. You see what I'm saying? There's a difference in the actual peak and face of a jump and the transition of a jump, like the bottom of the transition of the jump. That's what I'm talking about specifically. So that's just another little thing I noticed. But yeah, if they can get the corners going, kind of roll the transitions just a little bit, give us some inside pre-made lines, keep that road super low, we'll be getting somewhere, RF. We'll be doing something. We'll be scheming something up at that point, but I mean, I don't even really feel like this is a super big step in the right direction. It's just now we finally stepped back to where we were in 2019. That's basically all this is here. So until they really start doing all these improvements, really improving from how the tracks were in 2019, then, until they do that, they still haven't really done a whole lot, because that's all this is. It's just a 2019 track right here. That's all it is, dog. So either way, I want to try to congratulate you more, but it's tough for me to do that when all we've done here is step back to where we were at in 2019. So very interested to see what they can do in the next 4 or 5 rounds. I hope they get it together. I hope they do it. I really do. Got high hopes for them. We gonna see, but I don't know, man. We'll just have to wait and see. So either way, that's my opinions on it. And I did ride on this track with the road as well. Did a couple of races on it with the road at all different varying levels. And yeah, it's just kind of the standard ass old road shit, basically. Still think pre-made would be way better. And I even think you would have to have the erode at such a micro level. If you were going to have pre-made on these tracks, and have a road on it on top of that, you're either going to have one of two things. You're either going to have true enough pre-made and no road at all, or you're going to have like almost full-blown pre-made ruts everywhere and then just a absolute speckle of a road on top of it. It's one of those two things. You see what I'm saying? Like, that you can't have like a lot of pre-made and a lot of a road, or no pre-made and a lot of a road. So there's all different weird, like, a road just doesn't work with everything, and it really, I don't know. You just got to kind of know how the game is and how it works, but either way, that's my opinions on it, boys. Appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.